Pick a memory, not a vague one, a specific one. A moment you're certain happened, exactly the way you remember it. A childhood birthday, a face across a room. The first time someone said they loved you. You can see it, the light in it, the way it felt. Hold on to it. We're coming back to it at the end. Because here's the strange part. The one you just chose, the clearest, the one you're most sure of, may be the one most likely to be wrong. Not blurry, not faded with time, wrong. And the reason has almost nothing to do with whether you have a good memory or a bad one. It has to do with what a memory actually is. Most of us carry the same quiet assumption. That memory works like a recording, that somewhere in your head there's footage of your life, and remembering is just pressing play. The clearer the picture, the more certain you feel, the truer it must be. It's a comforting idea. It's also wrong. In 1974, a psychologist named Elizabeth Loftus showed people a film of a car accident, then asked a simple question. For some of them, she asked how fast the cars were going when they hit each other. For others, she changed a single word. When they smashed into each other. That was the only difference. One word. A week later, she brought everyone back and asked, "Did you see any broken glass?" There hadn't been any. But the people who'd heard the word smashed were more than twice as likely to remember glass that was never there. One word. And the memory quietly rebuilt itself around it. Loftus spent 50 years finding the same thing in 100 forms, until she put it as plainly as anyone can. Memory, she said, works less like a recording and more like a Wikipedia page. Something you and other people can quietly edit without ever realizing it's changed. If one word can slip in a detail that was never there, how far does that go? Could you plant more than a detail, an entire event that never happened? In the 1990s, researchers tried. They contacted people's families, collected a few true childhood stories, and mixed in one that was invented. A day around age 5 when the person got lost in a shopping mall, frightened and crying, until a kind stranger returned them to their parents. None of it had happened, but it came from someone they trusted, sitting alongside memories that were real. Over a few conversations, about a quarter of them began to remember it, not vaguely, in detail. The stranger's face, the look of the store, how scared they'd been. Some of them, even after they were told it was fake, refused to believe it. The memory was theirs now. A whole afternoon that never existed, living inside their minds as solidly as anything that did. But that still leaves a way out. You could tell yourself this only happens to suggestible people in strange experiments with someone deliberately planting the seed. So let's close that door too. In 2013, scientists at MIT did something that sounds like science fiction. Working with mice, they found the exact brain cells holding one memory, a safe room the mouse had explored. Then, with a pulse of light, they switched those cells on while the mouse stood somewhere else entirely, and at that moment gave it a small shock. They had stitched together two things that should never have touched, a memory of a safe place and a fear that happened somewhere else. Afterward, they put the mouse back in the safe room, the one where nothing bad had ever happened to it, and it froze in terror, bracing for a pain it had never felt there. Here's the part that should stay with you. When the researchers watched the brain during that false memory, it ran on the very same machinery as a real one. No warning light, no flag saying this part is invented. To the brain itself, false and true looked exactly the same, which means something about you. If your mind ever builds a false memory, it will not feel false. It won't feel like a guess or a dream or a maybe. It will feel like a Tuesday. It will feel like the truth. Let me tell you about a woman named Jennifer Thompson. In the summer of 1984 in North Carolina, a man broke into her apartment at night and attacked her at knife point. And in the worst moment of her life, Jennifer did something deliberate, something almost unbearably brave. She decided she was going to survive and memorize his face. Every detail, the shape of his eyes, his hairline, his skin. She studied him in the dark on purpose, so that if she lived, she could make certain he was caught. She did everything right. She was, by any measure, the perfect witness, focused, determined, certain. Days later, police showed her photographs. She studied them and chose one, a young man named Ronald Cotton. Later, in a live lineup, she picked him again. No hesitation. In the courtroom, she looked at Ronald Cotton and told the jury, without the faintest flicker of doubt, that he was the man who attacked her. He was sentenced to life in prison. There was only one problem. Ronald Cotton had never met her. And then it gets worse. Years into his sentence, the real attacker, a man named Bobby Poole, was sent to the same prison, where he reportedly bragged about what he'd done. Cotton's lawyers brought Poole into the courtroom, the actual man, a few feet from the woman he had attacked. Jennifer looked right at him, and she felt nothing. As far as she could tell, she had never seen this man before in her life. Her certainty stayed locked on the wrong man. It took more than 10 years and a DNA test that hadn't existed at her first trial to prove the truth. Ronald Cotton was innocent. Bobby Poole had done it. Jennifer Thompson had been certain, honestly, totally certain, and completely wrong. She hadn't lied. She didn't have a bad memory. Her mind had done something far quieter and stranger. Somewhere along the way, it had taken Ronald Cotton's face from those first photographs and painted it over the real attackers. Then it sealed the edit shut so perfectly that she could stand in a room with the actual man and not know him. She would later describe what happens to a memory like fresh snow. Once someone has walked across it, you can never get the untouched surface back. The footprints are part of the landscape now. Now, you might feel something defensive rising up. You might be thinking, are you telling me my memories are fake? That the things I remember, the things that happened to me, didn't really happen? No. And it matters that we're honest about this. Most of your memories are accurate enough to live your whole life by. Real events are real. If something happened to you, this is not science telling you it didn't. What happened to Jennifer isn't proof that memory is fiction. It's proof of something narrower and stranger. The feeling of certainty is not the same thing as being right, and you cannot tell from the inside which of your memories have footprints in them. That's the thing almost all of us get backwards. We treat confidence as evidence. The more sure I feel, the more vivid the picture, the more I can trust it. But confidence isn't a measure of accuracy. It's a feeling the brain produces on its own, and it produces it just as powerfully for the memories that are wrong. The most certain you have ever felt about anything is not a guarantee. It's just a feeling. You can catch this in yourself. Think of where you were when you heard some enormous piece of news, the kind that feels permanently burned in. Researchers once caught students the morning after a national tragedy and had them write down exactly where they were. Years later, those students described it with total confidence, vivid, unshakable. And it often didn't match a single line of what they'd written. They weren't lying, they were remembering. The memory had been rewritten, and the certainty came along for free. So go back to it now. That memory I asked you to hold at the very beginning, the one you were sure of. You still feel certain. Of course you do, but now you know what that certainty is worth and what it isn't. You don't know which details are the original footage and which your mind added later, filling a gap with something that fit. And you never will. You can't feel the seams. Nobody can. Which leaves one last question. Because if you're honest, you're not a single continuous person calmly remembering a fixed past. You are the story you tell yourself about who you've been. And that story is being quietly revised all the time by you, without your permission, without you ever noticing. The narrator and the editor turn out to be the same person, and that person is you. So what is the self really if the memories it's built on are partly something the mind made up? Maybe it's this: you were never a recording being played back. You are a story being told and retold every single time you reach for it. A little different with each telling, shaped as much by who you are now as by whatever actually happened then. It means your past is far less solid than you thought. It also means it's alive. So that memory you love most, the one you'd stake everything on, and keep it. Hold it as close as you want. Just don't mistake the feeling of certainty for proof, not even there, especially not there.